And then we look towards the end of the week and weekend, give you a virtual view of Cincinnati going from sunshine to storms. And not great news because the Swifties are taking over Cincinnati this weekend. Taylor Swift brings the Eras Tour to that city. 20,000 fans and counting expected to see her perform live this Friday and Saturday at Paycor Stadium. The problem is storms. Now, we've done it before. She has had some really soggy concerts. We take you back to the Boston area, for example. Hopefully not the case. And Nashville had problems as well. But Friday night, we do have hit or miss thunderstorms in the forecast. So something to watch. It's going to be a hot day on Friday with highs in the upper 80s. And then with those thunderstorms likely, these are the scenes you could be up against as you make your way to that concert. Now, heading into the 4th of July holiday weekend, we've got a hit or miss thunderstorm chance coming Saturday, Sunday. I do think Monday is okay. And then obviously we head into the day. So on Tuesday, if you take the 4-day weekend, even if you get a few thunderstorms, I don't think it's going to be by any means a washout. You got plenty of time, but it is going to be on the warm side. Now tomorrow, severe risk edges close to the Cincinnati area. However, it's generally focused across Iowa and Missouri through Illinois and Indiana. I think these are some main areas to watch. And then Louisville, Kentucky, north central part of the state of Kentucky could be a bit frisky in terms of your storms. 3 out of 10 on the Torcon for Peoria to Champaign. Outside of that, a 2 out of 10. So not as much of a tornado threat as it will be a damaging wind and hail risk. Here's tomorrow's hail threat all the way back to Wyoming and Colorado and Nebraska over into sections of Ohio, Michigan, down into Kentucky. Now that 2-inch or greater diameter hail, that would be especially likely across Missouri and Iowa over through the state of Illinois. And notice, gets us very close to Chicago. We say it before, we'll say it again. You get a big hailstorm over a big metro area, and you've got a very expensive disaster. Now, moving through the morning hours tomorrow, we've got some lingering showers and thunderstorms, again, approaching places like Louisville for your morning drive. So not going to be the easiest morning drive for you across sections of the Ohio Valley. During the day on Thursday, we've got some thunderstorms up near Milwaukee and Chicago. And of course, watching the storms back off to the west, we can see some big thunderstorms out there across sections of Kansas. Here's your Friday morning forecast with, again, areas like Illinois and Indiana in play. And then through the afternoon, we'll be watching a Cincinnati. Friday's best chance of severe weather does include Cincinnati, starting in Indianapolis, ending up in about Charleston, West Virginia. So I-65 corridor will be affected too. Mike?
All right, so some
we look at a place like New Orleans where the heat is getting worse, depending on who you ask. I don't think even like the most heat tolerant people, I think we're at a point where it's even too much for you. A live look right now, temperatures are in the 90s, but feels like 110. Now, looking at the heat today, the forecast high is 97. That also is the current record. So I think we'll likely tie the record. Average high this time of year would be in the low 90s. So about, 6 degrees above average. But then the dew points just add insult to injury. And we're going to stay on the steamy side as we finish off the week. Excessive heat warnings in effect from northern and eastern Texas through Louisiana, Arkansas into Tennessee. Almost all of the state of Mississippi is included, and a lot of Alabama included as well. And then heat advisories farther off to the north. So when we look at our temperatures right now, you can understand why. We've got temps in the 90s. Again, for these areas, it's just past noon, and you're already 96 in Midland, 98 in Lubbock, 93 in New Orleans, 90 in Houston. But then we've got to look at that dew point. Dew point of 77 in New Orleans. That air has a thickness to it, a heaviness to it. Same for Corpus Christi. So as you get into the upper 70s, low 80s for dew points, it is miserable. So, cooling is just not happening. Even into Shreveport, we've got dew points in the low to mid 70s for Little Rock. So you can see that Gulf moisture extends into portions of the mid-south. And I do think we've got more records possibly broken or tied today. Oklahoma City, you're going to be awfully close. Again, New Orleans, I think you tie it. I think Shreveport, you tie a record. Del Rio, you'll probably tie a record. And Roswell, New Mexico, you'll be pretty darn close. Mike?
All right, to the northeast we go. So amazing to think all the new technology that's come about here, Dr. Knabb, and it just seems like forecasters have a lot at their fingertips these days. This is awesome stuff.
Yeah, and it is still under development, and I'm really excited about all this stuff for a couple of reasons. One, there's so much that we can learn from the data from these kinds of drones on the ocean or in the air. Closer to the ocean surface, that air-sea interface that we can't really sample very well from the Hurricane Hunter planes, we're going to learn a lot. But it's going to be a while before the data from these kinds of craft are tangibly going to improve forecasts, and we still are, for the foreseeable future, operationally still going to have to rely on the heavy crewed aircraft, the Hurricane Hunters from NOAA and the Air Force.
Well, I was going to say, do you think these could ever replace that, or are there still invaluable things that we're getting from those flights?
Well, eventually the technology probably gets us there. But the one thing that the heavy crewed aircraft from NOAA and the Air Force can do that all these drones can't is we can send the Hurricane Hunter planes exactly where we need them to go, when we need them to go there, except at the lowest altitudes. But they have that SFMR instrument to remotely sense the ocean surface. These drones are too much reliant upon the currents and the winds of the system itself, and they can't be steered exactly where and when we want them to go.
What about the drones that we have now that fly, high altitude missions around hurricanes? Are we seeing the fruits of that already? And will we see eventually those drones fly directly into hurricanes?
Well, I think the first thing that drone, uncrewed aircraft are going to do is do those surveillance missions. These long duration missions in the environment, because that's a relatively safe environment, and they can linger for hours and even days in the environment of the hurricane. So that is where I think things will change first, to replace the crewed aircraft. But what they can't do is fly straight through the eye wall into the eye. They have to kind of go with the winds, and that's going to be the case for a while.
Makes sense. Dr. Knabb, thanks. Hey, stay